Today I'm going to talk a little bit about association. Association is very important in our lives. We don't realize how important our associations are. We're all products of our associations, good or bad. Our associations determine our thoughts, our activities, and more often than not, our behaviors. Any person can normally see who you are by your closest associations. We have to regularly review our closest associations. We have to strive to associate with people who are going somewhere in life. It's not necessary that our associations have the same goals and objectives that we have, but it would be wise to hang out with those who have some goals and objectives. If you really want to test your associations, tell your 5 closest friends or associates, however you describe them, some of your grand ideas and listen for a response from them. The ones who encourage you are the ones you want to keep a relationship with. The ones who give you all the reasons as to why you should not attempt are the ones you have to cut loose, even if you have had a long-term friendship with them. The reason a lot of us maintain toxic relationships is because the emotional attraction is too strong. We don't want to feel the pain of loss, and we don't want the other individual to think less of us for having a goal and not including them in it. They would think you're being silly for ending a relationship because of something that they don't seem to understand. They quickly forget that they ridicule your desire to force you into that position. I remember hearing a guy tell his closest associates that he planned on making $5 million a year, and based on their responses, he would determine if they would ever speak into his life again. Sometimes our biggest saboteurs are even closer. Sometimes they're family members. Why do our closest people do things like that to us? First of all, they want to protect you from disappointment. Secondly, if you accomplish what you set out to do, you remove the excuses from them. Thirdly, they think if you launch out to do something, that there's a slight possibility you might need their assistance emotionally, or how dare I say this, financially. A lot of times, the only support you will get from these folks is, I will pray for you, all the while they're secretly harboring feelings that you fail. Why do people do this? Well, society is constantly striving to make each and every one of us feel inferior. If we pay close attention, we are being conditioned to live a mediocre lifestyle. We're being conditioned to resent the evil, wealthy, or rich people. I don't have a problem with success done properly. I have to go back in time and tell you about some of my associations, former associations. I remember in elementary school, the first elementary school I went to, I hung with some boys who were bad characters. One day they decided they were going to beat up a girl, and I was right there with them. Now, I wasn't going to hit a girl, but I just wanted to hang with those guys. I was in the midst of trouble. It didn't happen, and I despise any male who abuses a female. Don't mess with the women in my life. As I got a little older, I wanted to play a little football. I played for 4 years with teammates who were committed to winning, and gentlemen who were coaching us that were committed to winning. In those 4 years, we lost a total of 2 games. Some of us have reconnected via Facebook and always talk about what would have happened had we remained together through our high school years. I went the solo route in middle school, not playing sports at all. I did, however, have some guys who I hung with on my street that were all the same age as I was. We played together, rode our bikes together, laughed together, climbed trees together, and threw China berries in the open car windows as they would pass by our houses. But that's pretty much where it stopped. During this time, 3 of the boys I hung with broke into my house and stole items that belonged to me only, with the exception of going into the refrigerator and taking some fruit out of it. Me being the type of person I am, wanted to forgive them even though they really only targeted me. My parents didn't agree with my thoughts. Of those 3 guys, 2 are dead, and the other has spent a life in and out of the prison system. The other guys failed the 8th grade, and I left them behind. Once that happened, our relationship changed because I was now the enemy because I passed my classes, and I was promoted to the 9th grade. And as I got to the 8th grade, I took Earth Science, and I sat with a group of guys who cut up. because we all want to be around the people that we consider fun. And sometimes fun is not the way to go when it comes down to taking care of business. The teacher called me to his desk one day after class, and he told me as long as I sat with that group of guys, my conduct grade would never be better than a G. So the next day, I changed seats, and I was ridiculed for not sitting with them anymore. Then later on in life, I found out years later about an incident that happened to me while I was in high school. We had a football game one night, and when I made it home, my father asked me where I had been that day. I told him I was at the school until we left for the game, and then it was on to the stadium. He informed me that the Houston Police Department had been by the house looking for me because someone said I had been shooting a gun at a school bus. I once again confirmed that I was at the school until game time and had not left until that time. And then he said they told him it happened at the school. Well, I told him it had to be a mistake because it wasn't me. I ran into one of the other guys who grew up on my street, and he told me about that incident from that day years before. He told me that he was the guilty one, and when HPD came around, he told him it was me so he wouldn't get in any trouble. This is supposed to be a friend. This is a guy, living on the same street with me for a number of years. And it just goes to show you, some people don't care about you even if they put on a false front. When I got ready to get married, I went to visit his parents because, like I said, I forgive. His mother told me that of all his friends, I was the only one who ever took him to church. And I told her he was the only one that would go with me. My father told me that my entire childhood, I always wanted other kids in the neighborhood to enjoy life as I was enjoying it, and always invited them to participate in activities I was involved in. I knew that was a better life than just staying in the neighborhood all the time because I was experiencing it. Because I played football on the other side of town, I didn't play in my community. Once I got to high school, I was back on the gridiron, as we call it. Those of us who play football. We only made the playoffs one year, and we lost in the first round. And it just so happened the one time we made the playoffs, I had a broken arm, so I was sitting on the bench. The guys I hung with, well, great majority of them, throughout those years took some turns for the worse. They wanted the easy money. I actually took an interest in woodworking. Well, I actually took an interest in woodworking in middle school as well. And also, took a project to the state competition in middle school. But in high school, my buddies and me walked home together from football practice and game. One of the guys who also was like me ran track as well. Sometimes it would be 3 a.m. when we got in from a track meeting. We'd walk home. We had each other's back. And by the way, today, he's doing mixed martial arts. And so going into my senior year, I was the only one out of the group who got a car. So I would pick up and drop these guys off at home. I also mentioned woodshop, a few seconds ago. I always liked being associated with a winner, and found out my first year of high school that the woodshop teacher was a winner, and he instilled that attitude in the students who wanted to win. I immediately liked him, and that relationship continues to this day. And I graduated high school in 1989. I made projects for competition 3 of my 4 high school years. In those years, I received a 3rd place, 2nd place, and 1st place in that order at the regional competition. At the state competition, I received 2 2nd place and a 1st place in that order. Everyone who made a project for competition was striving to win and be the best. The group of us who were taking woodshop and building projects for competition, we never cared about bringing our projects home. We wanted to go around the state of Texas and let everybody know that we were the best when it came to woodworking. After high school, the guys I was hanging with, took some wrong turns. One guy's dead today because he never got control of his attitude and his temper. Another is permanently blind because of doing some wrong things. One has turned his life around, and that's the guy I mentioned that does the mixed martial arts now. But I used to watch him cut up his drugs and sell them, during that time. Two of those three guys were doing armed robberies in the Houston area where we live and had gotten to the point that the U.S. Marshals were after them. The other guy I knew was one I knew before high school, but we were friends, close friends before we got to high school. And just like myself, he got involved in wood shop and he wanted to win. But we still maintain a relationship today. And just recently, his son just graduated from college and with a doctorate degree. So, not everything went bad. When it came to choosing colleges, I still wanted to play football. I was being recruited academically all across the nation. My decision actually came down to who had the better football team and the degree plan that I wanted to study. But honestly, if we really want to be honest about it, it came down to who had the best football team. At the time, I was accepted to Baylor University because of academics. I was being recruited by Harvard University and Dartmouth University as well. But I decided to go to University of Houston. And the reason I chose University of Houston was because at the time they were running the run and shoot offense, which was a high scoring offense at the time. I don't know why I got excited about that, because throughout my playing career, I was largely a defensive player, so I didn't like for people to score. But, went to U of H. I chose them. They had just come from the Aloha Bowl in Hawaii. I mean, who wouldn't get excited about going to Hawaii and playing a football game over there? Why U of H? Because I wanted to be associated with winners. And the other schools did not offer a winning football program at the time. By the way, my first year at U of H, we beat Baylor 66-8. I like to win. And whether the rest of us admit it or not, we all want to associate with winners. Here in Houston, football season, the professional football season is getting ready to start, and everybody's talking about the Houston Texans, the Houston Texans, the Houston Texans. I mean, everybody's excited because they had a great season last year, and they're expecting better things from them this year. So everybody wants to be associated with a winner in some form or fashion. And if we really think about it, being associated with winners, have you ever noticed that you see grown men walk around with another man's name on the back of his shirt and his jersey number? I mean, it's okay, when we were kids, we wanted to imitate, an athlete that we really, admired as kids. But when you see guys 50, 60, 70 years old walking around with a guy's jersey on who's about 25, something's wrong with that, in my opinion. But that just shows you people want to be associated with a winner. Even though I wanted to associate with winners, I never put another man's jersey on because I always wanted to be my own person. I'll just be honest about it. At University of Houston, I became close friends with a guy from Aldine MacArthur. And I mean, Aldine MacArthur during that time, I mean, they were one of the powerhouses coming out of the Houston area. And I mean, this guy, he thought he could whoop everybody. Matter of fact, he still do today. And we're still friends today. I gravitated to this guy because he never found a person who he did not believe he could not whoop in a fist fight. Size did not matter to this guy. When I got to U of H, I'm playing outside linebacker. I weighed 197 pounds. He's playing defensive end, and he weighed 205 pounds. But he didn't care how big you were. When it came to a fist fight, he believed he could whoop everybody. He told me a few years back that of all his friends that he had been with throughout his life, I was the only one who never picked up a drink. And I mean, that says a whole lot. And I reminded him that somebody had to get us home safe. It was also during this time that I happened to meet my future wife. We didn't meet at the University of Houston, but we met at a part-time job that we both worked at. As I moved and gravitated into the workforce, I went back to my solo mode. I was dating sparingly, but I liked to be by myself when I wasn't going out. Most of the guys I knew were engaged in drinking and partying. I was never a person to go out to clubs because I hated the smell of cigarette smoke and it remained on your clothes for the rest of the night. I remember, for a period of a few years, I used to bowl. Because, like I said, I like to compete. And when I compete, I like to win. I don't just do it for the fun of it. I mean, I enjoy having fun, but I like to win. Fun is when you're winning, in my opinion. But cigarette smoke really irritated me. And once the people at the bowling alley found out that cigarette smoke aggravated me, they would come sit behind me and blow the smoke over my head. Well, I didn't get into an argument or a disagreement with them. I would just politely remove myself from the area until it was my time to roll the ball again. So I went to a club a handful of times, but never really got into it. I went through this period, and my grandmother said I was too young to just sit around the house doing nothing but work all the time. My father always taught me to work hard, and that's what I was doing. I was working all the time. My grandmother was bowling, like I said, at one of the bowling alleys, and asked me to come out and bowl with them on the team, and that's how I got into bowling. I had found another way to compete and possibly win, and the efforts were team efforts, although we were basing it on individual performances. I had no clue what I was doing out there, but I was competing to win, so I knew I would eventually figure it out. In the 5 years I bowled, we never finished below fifth place in a league of about 25 to 30 teams each year. My associations today consist of my mentor, who was an all-academic student in high school and college. He also went to University of Houston on a football, basketball, and track scholarship. Contrary to other multi-sport stars in college, he actually graduated. He travels the world and teaches business ownership and free enterprise. Two of my other close associations are both pharmacists who have been best friends since elementary school. Other relationship has just been formed within the past year and happens to be a pastor who travels the country quite a bit. I choose not to have people around me and my wife who use a lot of foul language on a regular basis. I don't really want people around my house that want to drink. My wife and I don't do those things, so we don't allow it at our house. We don't care what other people do at their house. That's not our business. We can't control what goes on at your house, but we can control on what goes on here. So it's important to associate with people who are winners. They don't win all the time, although they strive to. When we cut some relationship ties, it sometimes help the other person as well, and they come around later on. We must develop relationships with those who can help us in the pursuit of our goals. Do you continue to nurture a relationship that is holding you back, or do you go after your dreams and goals? Only you can make that choice. We need each other. One is too small a number to achieve greatness, so we need others. If you don't